Air conditioning. My house has air conditioning in it. You open a window on one side and you open the window on the other side. Yeah, that's air conditioning. Well, do we have a small unit? Yes. On the very hot days, I actually put it into the window and turn it on. I don't have central air conditioning? Oh, no. Oh, no, no, oh, no, oh, no. The house that I live in? Oh, no. Oh, no, no. It was built in the 40s or 50s on that thing. There's no insulation in the walls. No. Why? Because they didn't have fiberglass insulation. They had ground paper, I think, like for insulation. You really? Oh, you mean the stuff that likes insects? Oh, we can treat it with that thing. Mm-hmm. There was something called silica. It's, yeah. Well, you can always get the stuff pushed in. Really? Uh-huh. You know how houses were built was very simple. You put up a frame, you put boards along the outside, right? Then you put tar paper on top of that. And then you put either wood out there, slats out there, or stucco out there, or brick out there. And the interior, you had plasterboard. The old way was to physically plaster up the wall. And a lot of places in Chicago were built that way. Any home that was basically in proper Chicago after the Chicago fire, many homes were built that way. There's a hollow space between everything, and you're supposed to do is that's going to be your insulation, the hollow space. You can go to Chicago, which is very interesting because there's this thing, oh, the poor people there. Well, what buildings did they move into? Where the Irish and Jews used to be and all the other ethnic groups used to be. Now the poor blacks are denied that. I love that thing. Oh, you're going to pay for them insulation. I told them to go to hell over your dead body. But you're looking at a lot of the buildings. Oh yeah, the poor blacks were denied this, but they never had this stuff. The Irish was in there before that thing. You can go into buildings in Chicago. There are buildings on the south side of Chicago, Chinatown. Go down to Chinatown, and you see these stairs going down. The roads are up, and the stairs are going down. That's the first floor down there. You go. Some of the buildings in Chicago happen to have double basements. That was once that thing, until they raised the streets and that. The old buildings. You know what those old buildings have? Also, there's no insulation in those walls. No, they're hollow. They're hollow things. That's even worse. On the north side of Chicago, you got buildings like that. I walked into a building once. One of my old girlfriends walked into her building and saw this pipe coming out of the wall. What's that? Oh, that's gas. What do you mean gas? Oh, when they had gas. That's how old the building is. And the cord coming out of there? Oh, and that's the light. Yeah, the electric light there. Wow, that's nice. What's your power source in here? Oh, we can't put it in there. Why? The fuse will blow. So you don't have a TV? No, it takes too much power. Can I see your junction box and go downstairs and oh, you got one of those buildings. What kind of buildings? Thomas Edison's buildings. Wires, one wire here, one wire there, and those little ceramic And look at this stuff. He says, you know what happens if you put 25 amps into your wall socket? Yeah, those things burn. What do you mean? You're going to have a house fire here. Then I ask her a very funny question. Can I go to your kitchen? Yeah. Take out my little knife and go. I scrape metal off the pipe, and I tell her, that is lead. When my father moved from Wisconsin down here as a teenager, they retrofitted the apartment they were in, because big family, 15 children, they had that thing. They retrofitted the apartment they had from lead pipe to steel pipe, even though steel pipe was used. And then years later, they retrofitted it again with copper pipe to bring it up to standards. That's really, really bad. But it being in Chicago is bad, yeah. They're, air conditioning, well, my father was there. They had two things they got. An uncle was into coal and ice, and their refrigerators always had ice on it. Ice, and they always had coal in the furnace. So all year long, industrial plants would get coal, and schools would get coal. And my father said they got free coal. They kept the house, the apartment building warm all winter long. That was one of their jobs, is to stay warm. But that's amazing. And for air conditioning, they open a window. And what happens when they open the window? Coal dust. You breathe coal dust. You had smog. In the wintertime, you had a smog going through the whole city. Well, that was nice about Chicago, because depending on where you live, you have a western breeze, and that smog went into Lake Michigan. Pity the people down in Chicago Loop. But basically, like the thing, air conditioning. There was no air conditioning. There was no air conditioning in private homes. Movie theater had that thing, but private homes in office buildings, they were built without air conditioning. And as soon as they got air conditioning in, they closed the windows. You go look at a lot of the buildings in Chicago Loop. That have the older buildings, all the windows open. The new ones, you can't open the windows. The old ones, you open the windows. That was their air conditioning. Yeah, it's awful. But I hear yes, all these poor people, racial and everything else. Well, that's true, but they live in buildings that are 100 years old. Built right after that, the newer buildings have air conditioning. The older buildings don't. And a lot of high rises, it was pretty hard on high rises to build these things because of air conditioning. You literally had a window open so you could do that. A lot of Cambrini greens, that thing, you could open the windows. That's your air conditioning. Of course, if you had the money, you could put air conditioning in your house, have a unit in the basement, was a cooler with a fan, until they got the smaller window stuff and that thing. I know, that's pretty bad. And now you go to the rest of the country, you talk about heat. Old folks are very susceptible to heat. And you expect that if a heat wave hits something like Chicago, when your temperature goes 120 degrees, those buildings are going to cook. And they're not made for extreme heat in Chicago, because extreme heat doesn't last very long. You've got the little parks, you've got the little lagoons, you have the Des Plaines River forest down there, and then you got other forests inside Chicago, and then of course you got Lake Michigan, and which is a cooling thing. Of course, you have in southern when you get hot, and you get 2 days later you got eastern breeze coming in, or a northern breeze coming in. You have 100-degree temperatures during the day and 60-degree temperatures at night. So you see a swing of temperatures in Chicago. Of course, you go further out, yeah, and it's hot out there. It's hot out there because unless you happen to have a section of woods or a golf course, you have you're hot. Many homeowners are painting their roofs with silver, aluminum, but up to reflections, painting them white, painting them that thing. In which somebody says, well, you can lower the temperature in an attic by 20 degrees or 30 degrees by painting your roof a silver color. But that's up to the landlord. I think my father said they painted their roofs white to reflect the heat. Of course, it's in winter time, but yeah, well, they burn coal and just all the air goes up. But yeah, I like living in this modern age. I got gas, air conditioning, windows either side. All the windows are up that much, cracked. Aren't you afraid when you're going to break in? Both places alarm. You break in and you're going to get really high-pitched sound. Yeah, one of the neighbors had burglar alarms, and he says they break through the windows and they get in the thing. The motion sensor sets off an alarm, and basically any glass in the room can vibrate. The guy's wearing glasses, he's in trouble. His hearing will be gone. I mean, you've got decibels. Woo! Woo! Yeah, well, that's the thing. But yeah. But what are you going to do? Well, we did it to ourselves. We were warned back. I took those graduate courses back in the 70s, and you hit 400 parts per million. Ooh, the whole thing's going to fall apart. But don't tell the Christians that. They get very upset about that.